dear unknown friend. Today we will examine Carl Gustav Jung's concept of the self.
The self is one of the most profound and complex concepts in Jung's psychology, representing the archetype of wholeness and the totality of the psyche. Unlike the ego, which is the center of conscious awareness and personal identity, the self encompasses both the conscious and unconscious aspects of an individual's psyche, including the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. The self integrates all aspects of the psyche, including the ego, the shadow, repressed or unacknowledged aspects, the anima, animus, contrasexual archetypes, and other archetypes from the collective unconscious. Jung described the self as the archetype of archetypes, a unifying principle that transcends the ego and serves as the organizing center of the entire psyche. The self is an archetype, meaning it is a universal, inherited pattern of experience that exists in the collective unconscious. It manifests in symbols such as the mandala, the circle, or divine figures such as Christ, Buddha, or even the wise old man, wise old woman. These symbols often appear in dreams, myths, or religious imagery, representing balance, unity, and completeness. Dynamic and paradoxical, the self is both the goal of psychological development and the source of the individuation process. It is dynamic, not static, constantly guiding the individual toward greater integration. It is paradoxical because it is both the center of the psyche and its totality, both immanent within the individual and transcendent, connected to the universal. The ego is subordinate to the self. While the ego is necessary for navigating daily life, it is limited and often fragmented. The self, by contrast, is the deeper, unifying force that seeks to balance opposing forces within the psyche, conscious versus unconscious, masculine versus feminine. Jung likened the ego-self relationship to a planet orbiting the sun. The ego revolves around the self, which provides direction and purpose. Jung often associated the self with spiritual or religious experiences, describing it as the God within, or the imago Dei, image of God. However, he emphasized that this was a psychological, not theological concept. The self transcends the individual psyche, connecting it to the collective unconscious and the broader human experience, giving it a numinous, sacred, or awe-inspiring quality. The self often appears in dreams and cultural symbols as mandalas, cosmic imagery, divine or heroic beings, and images in quaternity. Mandalas and circular designs are images symbolizing wholeness and balance. Quaternity are fourfold structures, like the four directions, four elements, representing completeness. Divine or heroic figures may be figures like Christ, Krishna, or the alchemical lapis philosophorum, philosopher's stone, which symbolize transcendence and unity. Cosmic imagery may be stars, the sun, or other symbols of centrality and harmony. Individuation is the lifelong psychological process of becoming an integrated, unique individual by realizing and harmonizing the self. It is not about achieving perfection, but about embracing the totality of one's being, including both light and shadow, conscious and unconscious elements. Individuation is Jung's answer to the question of how one becomes a fully realized person. Integration of the unconscious. Individuation involves bringing unconscious contents from both the personal and collective unconscious into conscious awareness and integrating them into one's personality. This includes confronting and accepting the shadow, the darker, repressed aspects of oneself, engaging with the anima animus, the contrasexual archetype that represents the opposite gender within the psyche, and encountering other archetypes, balancing opposites. Jung believed the psyche is composed of opposites: conscious, unconscious, rational, emotional, masculine, feminine. individuation requires reconciling these opposites to achieve inner harmony. This process often involves tension and conflict, as the ego must relinquish its dominance to allow the self to emerge as the guiding force. While the ego remains essential for functioning in the world, individuation requires the ego to recognize its limitations and align with the self. This is not about dissolving the ego, but about relativizing it, allowing it to serve the broader goals of the self. Individuation is the process of becoming a unique individual, distinct from collective norms or personas, the social masks we wear. However, it also connects the individual to the universal through the collective unconscious. As Jung wrote, individuation does not shut one out from the world, but gathers the world to oneself. Individuation is not a linear process with a clear endpoint, but a spiral-like journey that unfolds over a lifetime. It involves cycles of growth, crisis, and integration. Major life transitions, such as midlife crises, loss, or spiritual awakenings, often catalyze deeper stages of individuation. While Jung did not prescribe a rigid sequence, the individuation process often involves the following stages, which may occur cyclically or simultaneously. Confrontation with the shadow. The shadow contains repressed or undesirable aspects of the personality, such as anger, shame, or instincts. Integrating the shadow requires acknowledging and accepting these traits rather than projecting them onto others. For example, recognizing one's own envy or aggression instead of attributing it to external sources. Encounter with the anima animus. The anima in men, or animus in women, represents the contrasexual aspect of the psyche, embodying qualities traditionally associated with the opposite gender, e.g., nurturing in men, assertiveness in women. Engaging with the anima animus involves developing emotional depth, creativity, and relational capacities. This often manifests in dreams or projections onto romantic partners. As individuation progresses, individuals may encounter other archetypes, such as the wise old man, wise old woman, representing wisdom, or the trickster, representing transformation through disruption. These encounters deepen one's connection to the collective unconscious and universal human experiences. The final stage, though never fully completed, is the emergence of the self as the central organizing principle of the psyche. This is often experienced as a sense of inner peace, purpose, and alignment with one's true nature. Symbols of the self, such as mandalas, frequently appear in dreams or creative expressions during this stage. Individuation is not an abstract concept, but a lived process that manifests in various ways. Dream analysis. Jung believed dreams are a primary way the unconscious communicates with the conscious mind. Analyzing dreams can reveal shadow elements, anima animus dynamics, and symbols of the self. Active imagination. A technique where individuals engage with unconscious contents through dialogue with dream figures or visualization to foster integration. Art, writing, or other creative outlets often serve as vehicles for expressing and integrating unconscious material. Events like midlife crises, loss, or existential questioning often trigger deeper engagement with the individuation process. Jungian analysis, a form of psychotherapy, is designed to facilitate individuation by exploring the unconscious and fostering dialogue between the ego and the self. Individuation is not without difficulties. Facing repressed aspects of oneself can be painful and destabilizing, as it requires acknowledging flaws and vulnerabilities. Over-identification with the self or archetypes can lead to grandiosity or a sense of being chosen, which Jung called inflation. Alienation. As one becomes more individualized, one may feel disconnected from collective norms or societal expectations. Psychological crises, Engaging with the unconscious can stir up intense emotions or even psychotic-like experiences if not approached with care. Jung emphasized the importance of a strong ego and a supportive environment, e.g., therapy or community, to navigate these challenges safely. Cultural and social dimensions. Individuation is not about isolating oneself, but about finding one's unique place within the collective. Jung believed that fully individuated individuals contribute to society by living authentically and creatively. In collectivist cultures, individuation may manifest differently, balancing personal uniqueness with communal responsibilities. Spiritual and philosophical implications. Individuation often has a spiritual dimension, as it involves connecting with the transcendent aspects of the self. Jung saw parallels between individuation and religious or mystical traditions, as in alchemy, Eastern philosophies, etc. The process aligns with existential questions about meaning, purpose, and one's place in the universe. Jung's individuation differs from Freud's focus on resolving intrapsychic conflicts, as in id versus ego, or Maslow's self-actualization, which emphasizes peak human potential. Jung's approach is broader, incorporating the unconscious, archetypes, and a spiritual dimension. Unlike linear developmental models, like Erikson's stages, individuation is non-linear and highly individualized. In his autobiography, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, Jung describes his own confrontation with the unconscious during a period of psychological turmoil after his break with Freud. His engagement with dreams, visions, and active imagination led to the development of his theories and a deeper connection to the self. He drew parallels between individuation and the alchemical process of transforming base materials into the philosopher's stone, seeing alchemy as a metaphor for psychological transformation. Jung and his patients often created mandalas during analysis, which he saw as spontaneous expressions of the self and indicators of psychological integration. Jung's concepts of the self and individuation remain influential in psychology, spirituality, and popular culture. Jungian analysis and related approaches, depth psychology, continue to help individuals explore their unconscious and pursue wholeness. The hero's journey, popularized by Joseph Campbell, inspired by Jung, reflects individuation, as seen in stories of personal transformation in literature and film. Modern practices like mindfulness, meditation, and expressive arts echo Jung's emphasis on connecting with the unconscious and finding inner balance.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode, that you have found this information inspiring and helpful. Perhaps this will give you what you need on your own journey to individuation. Please share this video, like it, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so. Thank you and namaste, the philosophers of the living fire.